What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is basically Monday, September 26th, and this is the Week 3 recap show as we break down all the action from Sunday. Joining me to do so, as they do, I mean, a lot often, every week now for 3 years in a row.
A lot of years.
It's a lot of years.
Ryan Wilson and John Breech. What's up, fellas?
I'll just say quickly, Breech, that I was so, and this is going to jinx me, I was so happy about our preseason Super Bowl selections that I made a little spreadsheet so I know what's what. And I'll just say, with one game to go in Week 3, I am crushing it. But we'll get to that later in the podcast.
Okay. First, Ryan, how many Rihanna songs can you name?
0.
Really?
I think I don't know the names of any songs, but I think she's incredibly beautiful, and I'm happy that she's doing the halftime show.
Okay. Breech. Everyone is fully aware.
Breech, by the way,
if you answer this, you will be cheating. But go ahead and see.
No, he's a pop fan. I guarantee you can name. He could probably name.
Like his favorite band is Britney Spears, or like 98 Degrees.
She's pop.
I love Britney Spears.
Okay,
definitely pop. First of all, I'm sure Wilson has heard "Umbrella."
I probably heard it. I just don't know the name of any song.
Yeah, that's right.
It's me and my umbrella.
Okay,
umbrella,
sure.
Umbrella. I sing it every time I open an umbrella.
Did you know that song title?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's umbrella is like the key word in the song.
I don't listen to lyrics either. That's my.
And then she did a song with Eminem, but I don't know what it's called.
It's Slim Shady, I believe is what it was called.
It was not Slim Shady.
Oh.
Also, she's from Barbados, and I went to Barbados on my honeymoon, and people talk about Rihanna because they love her.
Here we go. What do we got here?
The bigger question is if Billy had asked us this question before he took the job, would he still have taken the job if we had collectively had known one Rihanna song between the three of us?
We're a combined 400 years old. Why would Breech knew Umbrella? We're good.
I mean, Umbrella feels like Breech Googled Rihanna songs, didn't want to pick one of the first two on the list.
No, Umbrella's an all-time classic.
Oh, it is 2007. Wow.
It's sickening that you don't know Umbrella.
I'm sure
as the guy who's the least musical guru of us three.
I'm not. Breech. Brinson claims he is. He's just
okay. First of all, this is not my wheelhouse. Okay, pop music, not my wheelhouse. I was gonna make a "Crazy in Love" like, is that one of her songs joke, but I figured somebody would accuse me of like being an idiot. That's obviously Beyonce.
Trust me, that ship has sailed. You're in the clear. You can go ahead and make that joke.
Do you remember Boston Legal, the show?
Wait, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Who's
we
you?
Just start this by saying, do we know any Rihanna songs? Did you actually mention that she's doing the Super Bowl halftime show?
I did. I said it, and you got mad at me for saying it.
Okay.
I did?
You're like, oh, fine. Breech, what do you know?
Don't share that information with people.
Okay, anyway, Rihanna is doing the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah.
In Phoenix.
Great.
I like the
Look, don't cater to old fuddy duddies like me. Cater to the cool kids.
Oh my God, he's dancing, Breech.
14 years for Brinson to admit he's not cool, but it happened.
I'm not cool. 30 teams have at least one win through the first 3 weeks for the second time since 2002, joining the 2012 season when 30 of 32 had them. It also marks the fifth time that since 1970 that there were only 2 winless teams through the first 3 weeks of a season, joining 88, 89, 90, and 2012.
Do you think Debo and or Billy have the champagne on ice in order to make fun of the 72 Dolphins when the Eagles go undefeated?
Or do I have champagne on ice to make fun of you guys when the Broncos win the Super Bowl?
No, you definitely don't.
By the way, do you know who won the 2012 Super Bowl?
The 2012 season or February 2012?
Seahawks and Russell Wilson.
It was Ravens 49ers, which I was going to go with.
I was off by a year.
RG3 won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Luke Kuechly, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Adrian Peterson, Offensive Player of the Year.
Why are you doing 2012?
Because this is the last time that we had like the win. It feels like an extreme situation of parity where everybody's got to win. And if you look at the point spreads coming up for Week 4, it's very clear that there is this NFL season. I'm just sort of doing a big picture thing before we dive into the games. I'm being called a hater the hater of the Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, look, whatever. This NFL season feels like it's going to be extremely muddled in terms of like I just don't know that any of the teams, like I think the Eagles are probably the best team in the NFC. The Dolphins are technically the best team in the AFC.
No,
No, they're not. Technically, they're not.
Their record, that doesn't mean they are.
Right.
Okay, technically they have the best record in the AFC.
Okay, thank you. That's better.
And they beat the team that most people would consider the best team in the AFC, the Bills. But the Bills without their safeties, we'll get to that game in just a second. Point being is that
what if I told you in 2012, let's say in November 2012, 10 years from now, you can take either RG3 or Joe Flacco. Who do you want? Like, no one on planet Earth is taking Joe Flacco.
That's crazy. That's a good point. And Flacco's
RG3's been out of football for 8 years.
Flacco did win a Super Bowl. By the way, that was the Super Bowl where Beyonce. It's all coming full circle. And Breech actually killed the power in the Superdome so he could steal control of the live blog and get hired to do this job. And now 10 years later,
here I am, still here.
We're all still here.
By the way, that was when I was really into taking photographs as part of work, and I went to the Tuesday. I think Tuesdays when they do the press conference for the Super Bowl acts. Is that right, Breech?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is Tuesday. So I went to the Tuesday press conference, got there an hour and a half early so I could sit up front and took like 1,000 pictures of Beyonce.
I'm jealous.
Not creepy.
For whatever reason, people are debating what my degree is in the comments.
Oh, please. I would love to. Let me open up the chat because I would love to see what these things are.
Yeah,
anyone say?
I mean, it was pretty. I've said it like a million times. It's just.
Did anyone guess physics?
They did not.
Oh, okay. Bad on the shocks.
So we're talking about, first of all, my undergraduate, not my master's.
Not your PhD.
Not your doctorate.
Not my doctorate.
Nuclear fission.
I have a degree in English. For a school that is like 99% engineering. It's like the worst possible school to go to English for. Actually, no, wait. My degree's from English from UNCG. What am I talking about?
I was going to say UNCG isn't
it's a liberal arts school. My formative years were at NC State. Anyway,
wait a second. Hold on.
Week 3.
UNCG's calling. They would like their degree back. Okay, go ahead.
No doubt about it. Yeah, they don't really recognize me. Technically, actually, with one game left to be completed, there have been 18 games decided by 3 points or fewer this season because I'm adding in 49ers and Broncos. The most such games in the first 3 weeks of a season in NFL history. And again, I'm just I think it's a global trend that is worth noting because I don't see a lot of teams that are just going to separate because of the various weaknesses they have. And I think that this is what the NFL wants and has been working to get for years. They want close games. They want crazy comebacks. They want and that's why the offensive rules have been changed, and that's why they do certain things. So
I don't disagree with that part of it. The part I will disagree with, I don't know if the NFL wants this because some of the product on the field, about 60% of it has been sort of dog dookie-ish. Like there's been all these like 11-10 or whatever the final score was.
11-10 punters duel, Wilson. This was just beauty at its finest.
10 punch for scoreless.
Sunday Night Football. That feels like recency bias to suggest that. I feel like the first 3 weeks of the season have been
okay. Packers-Bucs 14-12. My point is that yes, those are marquee names. Yes, it's Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady, but there have been some games where the score has not. They're not in the 20s or the 30s. They're in the teens, and maybe it's because it's early in the season. I get that, but it could be a little more exciting. That's all I'm saying. There have been some great games. The comeback game last week when Vegas lost to the Cardinals, for example. I get it.
There's Billy's first. Let's move on of his career.
I love it. All right, let's do it.
Well, you mentioned the Packers-Bucs, and that was a huge game because Green Bay comes away with a win in Tampa Bay, 14-12. I don't think. I mean, we said at least on the picture, it was like this game feels like an under. Both teams really rely on. What?
No, I'm laughing because it went way under.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, but both teams feel like defensive-based teams. They sort of change their identity based on attrition at the wide receiver position for Green Bay and injury and suspension for Tampa Bay, and so they can't really attack as aggressively as they would like to be. We heard rumblings that the Packers wanted to be a running defense team this year, a little more tougher, a little less reliant on Aaron Rodgers, and I think we got that. Now, this probably should have been an easier win for Green Bay than it needed to be, but Tom Brady's Tom Brady, and he marched the Bucs down, and were it not for a delay of game penalty on the 2-point conversion, maybe takes this thing to overtime.
Breech, you go ahead. I'm getting my thoughts together on this game.
I cannot believe that the Buccaneers got called for a delay game after going through all of that and taking a delay game when they probably should have been called for a delay game on their touchdown, which Aaron Rodgers pointed out afterward. Even though, yes, we all know that you get that split second at 0 before they throw the flag. But Tom Brady's 45. He's playing the NFL longer than half of Gen Z has been alive. It's just crazy to think that they made a mistake like that.
Well, and particularly when, And I think maybe that's a Bruce Arians factor. It's like you should definitely have your, like, I mean, if it was 14-6, if you're driving down the field, Byron Leftwich has to have a 2-point conversion play call ready to get in there.
Right.
Like, there's just no excuse for that. And, well, probably cost them they're 2-1. They're fine. Packers are 2-1 as well. I think, but I mean, now we got the head-to-head graphic up here on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. If you're watching, by the way, live on YouTube, hit the like button, smash subscribe, and turn on alerts. 9, fairly even numbers for Rodgers and Tom Brady. Brady 3 wins to Rodgers 2. I think there's a pretty good chance that we could see these guys again in the playoffs. Both teams feel like fairly good bets to win their respective divisions, given what we've seen through 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's not far-fetched, even by Will Brinson hyperbole standards. This felt like sort of the Spider-Man meme, just like two teams staring at each other, the exact same. The only difference is the Buccaneers are going to get healthy. Nice web shooters, Breech.
Thank you. I'm impressed.
For the Packers, who play in not in a great division, but can make the same case for the Bucs. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers has to hope that these young wide receivers figure it out. Randall Cobb had a couple of big catches. Romeo Doubs led that team in receptions, 8 for 73 and a touchdown. But Russell Gage was a leading receiver for the Bucs, and he had a drop. I think he may have had the fumble. He was involved in something earlier in the game where he was frustrated with himself. Fumble or the drop. I think it was the fumble near midfield. And those are things that will sort itself out when Chris Godwin and Mike Evans get back on the field. So you have to feel better about that. But Tom Brady had that look on his face like he had back in 2006 when he had 0 receivers. And then the next year they went out and got
Rashae Caldwell.
Rashae Caldwell. They went out and got Randy Moss and Wes Welker. The difference is, as Breech notes, Tom Brady's in his mid-40s. He ain't coming back to any sort of superstar team next year. He has to wait for him to get healthy in a few weeks and go from there. So I think they're probably, in terms of January football, in better shape. I think the Packers in general will be fine, but I don't know if what they have is sustainable unless the defense just continues to get better and help them out on the other side of the ball.
Great graphic here from our stats department. The lowest passing yards through 3 games, 673 for Tom Brady since 2018. 3 passing touchdowns through 3 games, his lowest since 2014, and also his lowest passer rating since 2014 as well. The good news for the Bucs, they host the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football this coming week. They are 2.5-point underdogs at home. They'll be getting Mike Evans back. But then they have a stretch of Falcons at home, at Steelers, at Panthers, where, I think 3-1 is most certainly viable. There with
that. If you're watching on YouTube, that face Tom Brady's making, he just realized he gets to play the Steelers 2 weeks.
I don't think he's scared of the Steelers. Then they have the Ravens and the Rams.
That's a face. That's a look of relief on his face. That's the face that I make when Debo says, "Hey, can you and Breech do the podcast because Brinson is MIA."
Look, the Bucs are 2-1. They haven't played the Panthers or the Falcons yet. They're in pretty good shape. Let's move on. It really was a boring game. Dolphins 21, Bills 19. This was not a boring game.
Not boring.
This game was wild. We had a butt punt. Ken Dorsey melted down.
A bunt. Go ahead.
A punt. Okay, a bunt.
A punt. A punt. That's harder to
punt.
Butt punt.
Yeah.
By the way, where are you at on CBS airing Ken Dorsey having a complete and utter meltdown on national television for everyone across the world to enjoy together?
Yeah, I think the only person I saw that was really upset about it was Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl. Yeah, I mean, they've been showing him they've been cutting to Ken Dorsey like the whole game, and then he melted down. And it's like, dude, you there's a camera in here. Of course we're going to show.
Well, and like what you see other coaches on the sideline get upset. There's nothing against showing them. So why should any coach, assistant coach or otherwise, be exempt from that policy? And it was also
what was more enjoyable for you, the butt punt or the Dorsey meltdown? Because I would actually vote the Dorsey meltdown, but the butt punt clearly it's like a very Sanchezian Thanksgiving special.
Both were completely unexpected. You could say, I'll give you 1,000 scenarios of what could happen. I would never guess the butt punt. I would never guess mild-mannered, basically Clark Kent wearing glasses. That's like Superman having like a roid rage out of nowhere on some old lady as she crosses the street. I would vote Ken Dorsey as well, but the butt punt obviously had on-field implications towards the end of that game.
Somebody, either Debo or Billy, put a poll up in the chat. What was more entertaining, Dorsey meltdown or butt punt?
Anyway, we've seen coaches meltdown all the time. Butt punts do not happen all the time. We see butts, we see punts. We don't see butt punts.
Yeah, but Breech, rank all-time coaches meltdowns that have been caught on tape during a game, and I think Ken Dorsey is automatically in the top 3. I don't even know who the other 2 are.
It was also, do you count? The press conference meltdowns like the Denny Green or the Jim Mora playoffs thing. This was like,
or Herm Edwards maybe, but on the field or
Belichick slamming the tablet.
He didn't say anything. It was like 2 seconds, right?
Dorsey was like slamming papers. It's like, what do you think? He's like hammering paper. He's like smashing papers. And then I couldn't tell whether it was his anger that got him in front of the camera and blocked it, or whether it was someone who was like, oh my God, this guy didn't know he's on camera and stuffed their hand down there. But a hand covered it like halfway through the meltdown.
Feels like a coach at that point doesn't care. It's probably like a PR person, I would bet.
Yeah,
why would a PR person be in the coach's box? I don't know who it was.
Do we think? And I don't care. Maybe he's talked about it, but do we think that he was upset about?
Yes.
Was he upset about the fact?
Yes.
What's that?
He was upset that they didn't get the playoff.
Yeah, the way the game ended was probably pretty frustrating for him and millions of Bills.
But I'm wondering if he was upset about the fact that Allen had to it was like do you think he was upset about the bad snap or Isaiah McKenzie not getting out, or just the
I think he was upset that Isaiah McKenzie didn't fall down 1 yard, or he should have. Isaiah McKenzie was trying to get 2 more yards when time meant more than yardage, so he needed to get down almost as soon as he got, say, 10 yards.
He needed to get out. He just needed to get,
he couldn't get out of bounds. They had 3 guys. That wasn't a possibility. Getting down and saving 2 seconds so the Bills had 2 more seconds to get the snap off would have made sense, but he didn't do that. And I think that's why Dorsey was bad.
I felt like he had a look to get out of bounds if he'd sprinted, but maybe
no. There's 0% chance.
Either way, don't try and be a hero. Just get.
Right.
Just get
down.
I
love the fact that Ken Dorsey looks like a human. I don't know why anyone would care that was. It's fine. Like nothing.
I mean, that's what I would do if I was. I would be throwing a tantrum like crazy. The Bills had 285 more yards than the Dolphins in this game and still lost. They also ran, and I'm going to double check this and look at it to make sure I do say the numbers correctly because it sounds insane when you say it. They ran 90 plays. The Dolphins ran 39 plays. Josh Allen attempted 63 passes. And I get that a lot of times the passing attempts, when it's up that high, could absolutely, it like leads to the fact that you're probably not winning because you're throwing that much, right? Because if you're winning, your passing attempts are probably down. You're running the football, but 90 plays is bananas, man. To score 19 points on 90 plays.
Like it was Oregon with Chip Kelly.
And it was 90 degrees out there, and mostly the Bills players were having trouble with the heat, at least based on the telecast.
Stephon Diggs cramped up at one point.
Spencer Brown had to leave with a heat-related illness, I think, around halftime, the offensive lineman. So that was a concern. And the thing is, when you watch that game, it didn't feel lopsided. The score never indicated. There was never a point in the game where one team was beating another by 10 points or whatever. And I think the drives were such for Buffalo that they would sustain these drives and then end up
10 drives. They were averaging 9 plays a drive. That's crazy.
But they would end up punting. There'd be a field goal. There's a missed field goal. They lost the drive on downs, and then
or they refused to spike it at the end of the half when they would have had a field goal attempt.
That is an insane play and certainly worth noting. I think what happened, just based on the replay,
he fumbled the snap. Josh Allen definitely
fumbled the snap, and then I don't even know if Steph Diggs was expecting the ball. It was almost a pick six, which would have been even harder. That would have been a reason for Ken Dorsey to.
Oh yeah, the pick six was before the half, not before the.
Yeah. Isaiah McKenzie caught that ball on the final play of the game in the middle of the field. So
the last play of the first half, spiking the ball is a basic play. It's so easy. And the only thing you can't do is fumble the snap, which is what he did. So
the only thing you can't do is throw a pick six, which is what he almost did.
I mean, I guess that's true.
By the way, worth noting, there's no way on planet Earth Tua should have come back in that game, correct?
The NFLPA has already launched an investigation.
Did you see what he looked like after he hit his head on the turf?
I was in the car on the way home, but I know that you threw out a comparison to me at a high level of inebriation.
So you saw it, Breech?
Specifically South Beach Super Bowl.
Let's not get specific.
No, specifics are important. Breech
I guess it is important because they're in Miami. So
Breech
is that Tua, they tried to play it off like it was actually his back injury and that had tightened up on him. And it was like, that's not what you look like when you have a back injury. That's what you look like when you have like a grade 14 concussion. I'm not a doctor, but it seemed.
I don't think a grade 14 concussion.
So Brinson, here's what happened. So the hit was clean. The hit was clean. I think Matt Milano just sort of shoved him and he lost his balance. Tua did on a completion down the field, and his head hit the turf pretty hard. He got up and he was wobbly. He went down to a knee. He got up again and he looked unstable, and they had to help him to the sideline.
It's a no-brainer concussion protocol. The spotter calls it as like, go get him checked out.
So here's the thing, and our Jonathan Jones tweeted this out shortly after he came back. Tua did. I think this happened 2 minutes ago before the half, and he came back in the third quarter. So there's a protocol in place. We talk about the protocols all the time. So you get to the sideline, you remove the helmet, and he can't go if let's see what it says. If there's a history of an event, I don't know if Tua has a concussion history. If concussion signs or symptoms are present, if you evaluate the speech, if there's an observation of the gait, he fell down coming off the field, eye movements and eye action. And if all those things happen, it's a no-go. Motor gross instability, confusion, amnesia. I don't know if Tua could remember anything or not, but he certainly was confused for a moment there. But for somehow, some way, he ended up back in the game. And the other thing is they play Thursday night.
He looks like, watching the video, he looks like floppy.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last year with Mahomes when he looked dazed when he got hit, and he said it was a neck or something similar.
And Tua only missed 3 snaps.
But they had
this is not a Tua question.
By the way, just to be clear, though, Breech said 3. Yeah, but there was halftime in between, so he had probably 20 minutes. No, this is a safety question. This has nothing. I'm glad Tua's playing well, and Tua's playing better than Mac Jones and all that other stuff. But just safety wise, either the rules are in place or not. So that's just. And they play Thursday night, which is the other thing to keep in mind.
Yep, at Cincinnati, they are 3-point dogs to the Bengals. Hey, look, let's take a moment here and note that Tua is. I saw that at NFL on CBS tweeted this out. He ranks first in the NFL in wins, which that's whatever. Quarterback rating though second, pass yards second, pass touchdowns tie for third. What? And I'm going to try and not. I'm curious what you guys think about the Dolphins and Tua, and what their upside is for the 2022 season. And like, because I think Mike McDaniel has done a fantastic job as the coach. He's opened up the offense much more. I mean, they didn't score a ton of points, and I do think that a couple, like, it wouldn't be shocking if they were 2-1 instead of 3-0, given how these games have played out. But they are 3-0, and they are in first place in the AFC East. What do you, if you rub your little crystal ball, Breech, where do you have the Dolphins finishing?
The same place I have them finishing before the season started, second place in the AFC East behind Buffalo. You already mentioned everything. If somebody did not watch this game and just looked at the box score, they would assume the Bills won 41-17, and it was just every possible positive thing that could fall the Dolphins' way
except
fell their way, whether it was Buffalo botching the spike plays, getting down, their timing issues at the end of the half, at the end of the game, Buffalo's fumble, just a missed field goal by Tyler Bass. There were just all these weird mistakes that all went Miami's way. And to their credit, they take advantage of them. They win. The same thing happened in Baltimore last week. But, you look at this game, they trailed for, they only led for 10 of the 60 minutes. Against Baltimore, it was fewer minutes than that. And it was just, they're walking a fine line, and eventually that bites you.
But the difference, I would say, you're not wrong, but the difference I would say about this week and last week's game against the Ravens is that they were never more than one score behind. 14-7.
7 at halftime. Are you saying for this game, this week?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, 14-7 in the second quarter, then 21-17 that they went up in the fourth quarter before the lead was cut to 21-19. So I think they were able to keep it close. But if you look at the stats, you're right, Breech. You would have a hard time figuring out how they won this game. Tyreek didn't get involved. Like, he had 2 catches for 33 yards, and Jalen didn't get involved until later. They were still finding ways to do it, and a credit goes to the defense. The defense was actually getting after Josh Allen consistently. Yes. Now, heat or otherwise, I don't know. It doesn't matter. They have players at all 4 levels who are really good in Miami, and I think that could be sort of something the Dolphins lean on if the offense isn't clicking. But the fact that Tua went 13 of 18 for 186 and a touchdown, and it felt like he played a lot better than that, that's a great sign. Because I think you'd rather have those numbers than have Josh Allen's numbers, 42, 63 for 400, and lose the game. And I think there was a stat like they're 0-7.
Bills have lost 7 consecutive 1-score games. That's crazy, man.
That's the stat, right? 0-7.
And if you don't, I mean, look, and again, this is not. If you told somebody, I'm not throwing shade at the Dolphins. Clearly, the Dolphins are 3-0. I'm taking it on the chin. It's fine. If you told somebody the Bills had 31 first downs and the Dolphins 15, the Bills converted 61% of their third downs, and that they had 497 yards to the Dolphins 212, and that the yards per play were about even. The score that the score that you got back from the person you told this information to would be like 41-10 Buffalo, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, all those yards were in the middle of the field, and once they got to the red zone, the offense sort of crapped out for Buffalo. So credit to Miami, and I think Mike McDaniel is my early front runner for Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Well, Nathaniel Hackett would like a word, but he's
Doug Moran would like a word too. But look, Mike McDaniel. The bottom line is they won without a great offensive game. They won without Tyreek Hill having a massive game.
They put up 212 yards of offense. Only one other team has won a game this year with fewer than 215 yards of offense.
Yeah. And look, this has been
the Bears.
We saw this with the Chiefs last year when Mahomes struggled early on, and this is what people have been doing to the Bills, is forcing them to be patient and forcing Josh Allen to take what he can get underneath, and you end up with a ton of yards. You throw the ball a bunch, and Miami would get after him when they needed to. And the other thing about Buffalo, Jordan Poyer didn't play in this game. He was inactive. He could be back next week, but Micah Hyde is done for the season. Like, I think that's a huge deal for Buffalo. Those safeties are sort of like, that's kind of sort of the identity and the fulcrum, I think, of that defense. And I worry a little. I mean, their offense can be fine we think.
Yeah, but you say that, but you look at the numbers that the Dolphins put up offensively. They didn't do anything.
No, I know. I mean, yeah, I'm not.
And you should be more worried about the Dolphins secondary and the Dolphins defense. They're giving up over 400 yards per game
against the best.
Who said Doug Marrone? Did you say Doug Marrone or did I say
no, Wilson? Not against the best. They played the Patriots.
I mean, Doug Peterson, obviously.
I didn't know what you meant Doug Marrone for either. I was like, what is that about? But Breech, this is the best
offense.
Not
just today, though. They gave up a ton of yards last week. They gave up a ton of yards to the Patriots, even though the Patriots only scored 7
We'll talk
points.
about Lamar in a little bit, but he's doing okay too. Turns out he doesn't suck.
All right, anyway, I think, but it would be, if you look at the Bills, if you look at the Dolphins schedule, they're at the Bengals on Thursday. They could definitely win that game. The Bengals have not played well enough to say that the Dolphins can't win the game. It's a 3-point game. Then they're at the Jets, Vikings at home, Steelers at home, at the Lions, at the Bears, Browns at home, Texans at home. Like that is a schedule of a team that is going to the playoffs.
I mean, okay. I mean, I think you're getting a little far ahead of yourself in terms of what the schedule looks like in a few weeks. But yeah, I mean, those are tough games. I don't think they're necessarily layups. The Bengals are tough. The Vikings are tough. The Lions we've seen they're going to play tough the whole time. The Browns, they're not bad with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, there's some wins on that schedule, but I don't think there are any,
I think when the Dolphins go to the Week 11 bye, they will be 8-2.
Okay, we'll see. Like I said, you're incredibly optimistic about schedules when you look at them, so maybe.
I'm not worried about the Bills; they'll be fine, but they've not been great in Florida. All right, moving along.
The defense will be a question. I think Breech is right about that, but just not on Sunday.
Broncos 11, 49ers 10.
All right, next game.
What is happening here?
The big winner in this game is Dan Orlovsky, because Jimmy Garoppolo actually stepped out of the end zone with both feet, which is very difficult to do.
The best part of that play? It's not that Dan Orlovsky's off the hook. It's that if dumbass Jimmy G had stayed in bounds, it'd have been a pick six.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's actually like a beneficial safety. I mean, does anyone want to revise the 49ers upgraded with Trey Lance getting hurt take?
I do. I apologize on HQ because I fell for that BS. I said, "Oh, Jimmy's going to refine himself. He is who he thought he was." And to re-mention Danny Green's name, and I think that Kyle Shanahan hates him. I think he absolutely despises what
they would cut to him on the sideline. He would just be shit. You I almost felt like Shannon hated me. That was the scowl on his face. It was just like he could not believe it, and he wanted to like get Mr. Miyagi to magically heal Trey Lance's ankle so he could anyone at quarterback besides Garoppolo.
You know what's funny, Breech? I now thinking back, when you have more information and you look back on an event, it makes more sense. I wonder if they gave up 47 first-round picks to get Trey Lance just to spite Jimmy, to say, this is how much we hate you. We're going to get a guy that didn't even play last year, played FCS, and only played 4 games a year before that. Slight exaggeration, because you are that bad. Now, again, I'm sort of half joking, but Jimmy G was good last week, and he was absolutely dog crap terrible on Sunday night. I want to ask this, though. I was watching this game in the third quarter thinking, do you think that let's just assume Russ was like not a diva, if that's the word we want to use in terms of why he left Seattle, but he was just like a run-of-the-mill, boring quarterback, but played the way he does now. Do you think he would have been better off staying in Seattle? Like, that team might be better than the Broncos.
Looks like if the Broncos are in first place in the AFC West by some miracle of the football gods at 2-1. They haven't scored 20 points. Nathaniel Hackett is like one of the big storylines in the NFL. Russell Wilson has been horrific. Like, I am concerned about the Broncos moving forward because Russ doesn't look like himself. And I don't know if it's an offensive thing. He hadn't been really good for close to a year now.
I will say that as the person who picked the Broncos to win the Super Bowl.
How do you feel about that?
I feel better than I did 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But they should have beaten the Seahawks by 2 touchdowns. They fumbled twice at the 1-yard line. This is a team that could very well be 3-0 despite how badly their offense has played. And I think Wilson made a good point a week or 2 ago after one of our Sunday recaps is that, when Tom Brady switched teams, he was going into a Bruce Arians system that existed.
This is my point. I've been saying this point for 3 months. It's the point I made. It was Matthew Stafford when he switched teams. Everything was all set up for him.
Let Breech make the point
it's
about
not a good point by Wilson. It's a point I've been saying, like, hammering for 3 months.
The last person who said it to me was Wilson. I'm just actually doing what Brinson always does. Yeah, so anyway, long story short is that so you're 2-1, and this offense is just going to they struggled. They struggled last week. They struggled in week 1, but Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett are finding their way together. And so despite Nathaniel Hackett's boneheaded calls and game management, they're still 2-1. Despite the fact that Wilson has been struggling, they're still 2-1. But I think the offense is only going to get better, mainly because I don't think it can get worse.
Breech is cooking right now.
They've got winnable games. 2-1, man. 2-1.
Breech, I thought you were going to bust out like Russell looked at Nathaniel Hackett on the beach and said, there were only one set of footprints because I carried you this far.
He drove him 80 yards. It was a vintage Russell Wilson drive for the game winner.
So
the 49ers were 1 of 10 on third down. That's why they lost.
That's right. And
they lost because Jimmy Garoppolo was on the team.
The fumbles.
He went any worse than Russell in this game.
He fumbled a snap, which everyone forgot about because of the safety.
He was considerably worse than Russ in this game. That's how bad Jimmy Garoppolo was. There was no redeeming quality for the final 45 minutes the way Jimmy Garoppolo played. And look, Breech is the most positive person we know. And for him to say that Kyle Shanahan looks like he wanted to shoot laser beams out of his eyes at Jimmy Garoppolo based on the nonsense that we saw on the field.
You don't think Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo are finding their way together? Is that what you're saying?
He ain't carry him across the beach. I'll say that.
Drowning Jimmy's like there's only one set of footprints because I dragged you out there and drowned you, Jimmy. That's why.
And by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo is also obscuring the fact that Nathaniel Hackett did better on Sunday night, but that offense looks like crap. He did better in the sense that
terrible challenges, and he.
Oh, by the way, that yeah, but let me look that up real quick. He did better in the sense that he got the field goal team out there on time, and they didn't get delayed.
I cannot believe Mike Tirico was. Mike Tirico was like, "Hey, look, give Nathaniel Hackett credit. That field goal team was right out there right away." It's like, yeah,
but it hadn't happened the previous 2 weeks. So here's the thing: Next Gen Stats tweeted this out. On 4th and inches, trailing 10-5. I mean, that's the actual score. Early in the fourth quarter, the Broncos elected to punt. It was like they're on their. It was minus 35. They're on their own 35-yard line. It was 4th and inches, and the number said go for it by almost 5%. The Broncos have gotten only 1 of 7 calls correctly when the number said go by plus 2% or more this season. Minus 31.5% win probability loss, and they're still 2-1. You know who this team is, by the way? They're the 2021 Atlanta Falcons. Remember that team won every game by 4 points and 7 wins on that schedule, and they were
2012 Raiders, maybe.
I don't even remember who was on that team.
Was it the Raiders who like? It was like
the Hugh Jackson Raiders.
Maybe it was the 2016 Raiders. I can't remember anyway. It was the Jack Del Rio team that went to the playoffs, but Derek Carr broke his leg at Christmas.
All right, let me ask you guys this. Who wins more games this year, the 49ers or the Broncos?
Yeah, we talked about this on HQ, and man, Jimmy Garoppolo worries the dookie out of me. But
he's a backup quarterback.
Stop it. He is not a backup quarterback.
He's literally the backup quarterback who's playing because the starter.
He's been a backup quarterback for exactly 3 months. Prior to that, he was the guy.
Okay.
Kyle Shanahan loved him until he realized that he didn't love him. But I'm taking Kyle Shanahan over Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah. That said, I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett's going to be the coach, by Thanksgiving. So who knows? I'll go with the 49ers. I don't feel great about either call.
Breach, you're obviously going to say the Broncos because you picked the Broncos.
Oh, yeah, you have to say
and I'm a Kyle Shanahan junkie, so I'll say 49ers.
Junkie.
But it's not particularly. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more Sunday recap. Next. The Ravens moved to 2-1 with a victory. I believe I saw that it's the first ever victory for the Ravens. Is that in New England in the regular season? Is that right? That's crazy. Guess it's not that crazy. The Ravens were sort of formed like right around when Bill Belichick started coaching, so maybe it makes sense.
Joe Flacco, you realize, was the coach for quite a while. The quarterback for the Ravens for the Ravens.
He won playoff games in there, though, right?
Yeah, I think him and Ray Rice in 2008. I think they won that playoff game.
That's right. It's after Wes Welker tore his ACL in Week 17 against Houston, and Belichick's up.
That was 2009.
Yeah.
That was 2009.
Lamar Jackson became the second player in NFL history to record at least 4 touchdown passes, 100 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown in a single game, joining Randall Cunningham.
Yeah.
Did it in November 4th, 1990. Jackson recorded 3 touchdowns and 119 rushing yards in Week 2. So he's the first player in the Super Bowl era to record at least 3 touchdown passes and 100 or more rushing yards in consecutive games.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question. See if you guys know this. Without cheating, Breach, eyes up. Do you guys know where Randall Cunningham went to college? I bet Debo and Billy don't know either, even though they're huge Eagles fans.
UNLV.
Did you cheat?
What'd you say?
I know it.
He went to Jerry Tarkanian School of Business.
That's right. Oh,
good call, Breach.
It actually popped in my head right, but I couldn't let anybody else spit it out.
Gotcha.
There's something interesting about
the running reps.
Just talk about the Ravens for a second while I try to figure out.
Oh yeah, Breach. I want to make fun of you because you said you couldn't believe that the Dolphins defense gave up so many yards to the Ravens last week.
No, I didn't say that. I said they're giving up more than 400 yards a game, and they've played Mac Jones, Lamar Jackson, and today's game.
Well, let me ask you this. So I was watching this Ravens game and watching my guy McCorkle Jones really make me look bad with 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. But in terms of Lamar Jackson, we used to make fun of Jerry Jones about Dak Prescott and refusing to pay him and how it cost him probably an extra $5 million a year by the time they got around to signing him. Is it worth whatever Lamar is going to get, $50+ million a year, if the Ravens win the Super Bowl and they drug their feet on signing him? Now, it wasn't entirely the Ravens' fault. I don't think they tried to get Lamar signed in August, but the two sides can come to an agreement. I know. All right, hold on. This feels like a situation where Lamar is playing so out of his mind that you're willing to pay the price of inflation if you actually get a Lombardi trophy. What do you think?
I don't know.
He wouldn't sign. It's not like they're winning 2 football games. Like, I would almost think Steve Bisciotti would be like, okay, fine, I will pay him what he wants. He's that good.
If they win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to pay. You can't let him walk after he wins the Super Bowl. It's just...
I'm trying to paint as rosy a picture possible, as opposed to losing the first round of the playoffs, still have to pay him $52 million a year.
I do think that would make things interesting if they got to the playoffs and lost in the first round again. And then...
If he plays like this the whole season and they just lose in the first round of the playoffs, that doesn't make things interesting. He's getting whatever he wants.
What if they lose 70-0? He throws 10 interceptions against the Bengals?
That would be tough.
Lamar
Jackson is he said, give me this. The Ravens said, no, we want to give you this. He said, no. And he said, I'm going to bet on myself like the guy Joe Flacco did 10 years ago. And he's performing at a level that is going to force them to pay him. If they lose in the first round of the playoffs, that is not going to just and he has an MVP caliber season. It's not going to can the idea that he has to get all this money.
No, Breach isn't saying that. He just thinks it would be interesting.
By the way, I remembered what it was. I can't.
Yeah, what were you looking up? That was so.
Crazy. What?
No, I'm saying if they win the Super Bowl, you blindly give him whatever he wants. If you lose in the first round of the playoffs, you're not blindly doing it. There's
you open your eyes and you give him the exact same thing.
Probably.
What guest on this podcast previously
Mina Kimes. Next question.
Right ahead played quarterback at UNLV before Randall Cunningham.
Oh, Mike Glennon. Everyone knows that. So who's been on this podcast since that age? Because Randall's probably 53, maybe 54, 55.
It was in the early 80s.
Is there a list of every guest we've ever had?
No, but tell us whether you pay attention to this podcast or not.
Pete Prisco?
No.
Like, who's Pete's age that's been on this podcast that doesn't hate you? Do they work at CBS Sports?
No, they don't. All right, I'll give you a quick because we don't need to sit here and like waste guest time. Kenny Mayne.
Oh,
I thought he played basketball.
No, we talked about. There you go. Somebody, John Stitchen in the chat got it. Kenny Mayne. He played. He talked about. I think he played with Randall, but it's hard to get exact stats from the early 80s.
And ironically enough, Wilson actually did listen to that podcast. Kenny Mayne actually had to try out with the Seahawks and then injured his ankle and then never
That's right.
played football again.
It was a good podcast. You should check it out. Lamar Jackson actually has like better rushing stats, better maybe total stats than he did in 2019. Who's the MVP right now, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts?
Oh, that's a good one. I'll give them both conference player of the year. That way we can all be happy.
Or, actually, we should point out that.
There we go.
Yeah. There you go. Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson 7-1. Josh Allen 3-1. Patrick Mahomes 5.5 to 1. So
I would take both Lamar and Jalen. Feel great about it.
I definitely think that the Ravens are the best team in that division, but the Ravens do also have serious weaknesses that could open the door for, I would think, maybe the Browns, because I don't think so. We talked about it on Thursday, but probably more likely the Bengals, who started to put things together. I don't think if the Ravens can fix their defense, they are a real problem. But right now, the defense is a real problem.
They still on JPP, but I mean, there's a reason he was out there.
I mean, the Pats hung 26 on them. The Pats are not very good, and the Pats are going to be worse because Mac Jones, high ankle sprain. I know Tom Curran of CSN New England posted a picture where it looked like Mac was in extreme pain headed back to the locker room.
Yeah, he can walk. He was literally
he's being helped back
peg
there.
like cowboy in it to the sidelines.
Do the Patriots have a prayer in hell with Brian Hoyer and
to do what?
Zappi?
Yeah, like to win next week or to get the playoffs.
They're not going to the playoffs.
Yeah, so you would write off the Patriots completely for this year.
Yeah. Have you seen them play?
I'm not saying that. Yeah, Mr. Seatters, put that comment up. This is great. We need to clip that Breech is finding their way together. It's
That's Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett, who have never been together. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge have a history.
Look at this, Wilson. Look at Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are finding their way together.
Yeah.
I cannot wait until you guys have to get a Broncos logo tattooed on you after they win the Super Bowl, and my prediction comes true.
So the Patriots just don't look good. They're bad. All right.
Yeah.
All right. You have to. This is this is life or death.
Okay.
If you're wrong, you die.
I would rather have a tattoo.
Who finishes higher in the division, the Jets or the Patriots?
The Patriots.
Patriots.
Okay, so they're not that bad.
I mean, they have Joe
I
Flacco.
watched the Jets for all 4 quarters today, and that was the first time, and it hurt.
Turns out Joe Flacco is not elite. That was on me. My bad.
He was for 90 seconds last week.
Yeah, that's all it took.
It's just hard to find a path to the playoffs for the Patriots. 28-1 to win the division. That is wild, man.
No, it's not. If you've watched them play, I mean,
I have watched them play. I'm saying it's just wild to consider that a Belichick team 3 weeks in the season is 30-1 to win the division.
Well, I mean, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Tua's exceeding expectations, and Mike McDaniel's doing a great job there. And New England is
worried about your Mac Jones.
Yes.
Love.
Oh yeah. He has not played well. He had a couple good throws against the Ravens. He had some not so great throws in the way of 3 interceptions, forcing balls down the field, and he's got sorted out. That's just. Here's the thing, though. Every week on HQ, I always say, and on the podcast, they got to figure out a way to do X, Y, and Z. And we'll talk about in a second with the Bengals. But it's hard to fix things that suck on your team in the middle of a year when you don't have players to access to fix the suck. So, Mac Jones played well last year at times, and Tyquan Thornton they drafted in the second round. He hasn't played yet because of shoulder injury. He'll be out for a few more weeks, so they could use some help there. Devontae Parker went 5 for 156. I mean, that's not sustainable.
No.
So, yeah, it's
well.
trouble.
And Wilson, you bringing up being able to fix things in the middle of the year is also why I would be a little concerned about the Ravens. They are giving up more than 450 yards per game. That's an insane number.
Their defense is a problem.
Yeah, and so if you're going to be playing, once they get the teams that are offensively better than the Patriots, which are almost everybody,
except the Steelers,
it's going to be. They have the Bills and the Bengals.
The Bills and the Bengals at home in the next 2 weeks. I mean, like that's.
I'm going to call it now. They're going to beat the Bengals by 40 points. Just you've heard it here first.
I hope so. Then they're at the Giants, Browns at home, at Buccaneers, at Saints. I would expect. I just think Baltimore is a very good team that has to figure out how to fix some stuff on defense, and we don't know.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Can you do it?
Okay, moving along. Patriots are toast. Ravens are a contender, but have some question marks.
Toast.
Time for a little patting on the back because the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, this is
the Chargers.
Worst case scenario for me.
It really is, and beat the living snot out of the Chargers. 38-10 is their largest. Excuse me, it's their third largest road win in franchise history. It snapped a 10-game road losing streak. Trevor Lawrence, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception through his first 3 games of the season. And while his first week, which you guys criticize aggressively, was not great, his last 2 weeks have been the best 2 games of his professional career. And he looks like he is a franchise. I mean, I know I'm not trying to jump this far ahead, but Trevor Lawrence appears to be the guy that we thought Trevor Lawrence would be, thanks to not Urban Meyer being around.
Yeah, not Urban Meyer. That's patent pending. Brinson's little trademark saying there. Another fun fact, unless you're Chargers fans, the last time the Jags had a 20-point lead in back-to-back games, you guys want to guess what year that was?
1995.
96.
2000.
The Jaguars were formed at 95, I believe.
Yeah. Year 2000 versus the Browns and the Cards. And oddly enough, Doug Peterson was a quarterback with the Browns that year. That's a fun fact from NFL on CBS. Here's the funny thing. By
the way, speaking of the social media team, hey, if you're going to steal my tweets.
What? That's an accusation, Brinson. Strong accusation.
Or put the tweet in the photo. We work for the same company. There's literally no one else who thought Doug twice now. Doug Peterson is now tied for 5th with Urban Meyer for most wins in Jaguars franchise history. Like I
saw that tweet from our social media team and thought you stole it from them, which seems more plausible.
You saw the tweet? They sent that tweet out?
It was hilarious. You didn't see it? It got like 400 retweets. Breech, look how mad he is right now. Like he can't. Smoke's coming out of his ears.
It's on Instagram. Just tag me, man. That hard.
No one cares but you. What I was gonna say is when Justin Herbert, let's see, let me get the chronology right here. Justin Herbert last year playing like that, that's best case scenario in terms of the draft prospects for Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson. We didn't see that last year in Jacksonville because, of course, as we talked about, Urban Meyer dysfunction, so on and so forth. On Sunday, Trevor Lawrence played like Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert played like someone who had like 15 broken ribs and was in a lot of pain. And I think this game is a huge victory for the Jaguars. I don't think it says much about the Chargers other than they were incredibly banged up. No Bosa. Rashawn Slater left. That's a problem at halftime, I believe, the left tackle. No Keenan Allen. And obviously Justin Herbert playing.
No J.C. Jackson.
No J.C. Jackson. So in week 3 also felt like the sort of tipping point for a lot of these teams where their best players were hurt. And you can't play well without your best players consistently, and that's I think had a lot to do with some of these outcomes. So whatever, man, the Jaguars went to LA, they won by 4 touchdowns. That's a huge win for them, and thank God that the social media team sent that tweet out about Doug Peterson because it was hilarious.
And also, look, we ripped Nathaniel Hackett the last couple of weeks, but Brandon Staley, why is Justin Herbert in the game on 4th and 5 with 10 seconds left, throwing passes where he could take hits on his injured ribs when he's down by 4 touchdowns? I mean, that had to be the worst coaching decision of a franchise quarterback. I mean, it's just insane that he was still in there.
What has happened to Brandon Staley over the last 3 games?
I mean,
did they leave him in after I know he was in down 3 touchdowns. They took him out after that, right?
No, he was in with 10 seconds left. He was in for the final offensive play of the game for the Chargers.
He was literally like laying on the ground after sacks, like grimacing in pain. What is wrong with this team? Why would you? What do you have? You the Dolphins, they gave you Justin Herbert because they took Tua, but it's fine. Tua looks good now. But you have Justin Herbert. You can't make the playoffs with him, and you're trotting him out there. You're letting him, like, basically letting him decide if he wants to take a painkiller or a shot of something in to fix his ribs, when the only reason he ended up starting his rookie year is because the same doctor who's giving him that painkiller actually jabbed Tyrod Taylor in the wrong spot, forcing him to miss the game and put Justin Herbert in there. What are we doing?
What is happening here?
They took precautions to make sure they didn't collapse Justin's lung, if that makes you feel
Just
better.
don't play him in this game. It's that easy.
Well, I'm sure if Brandon Staley had a time machine, he would probably take him out in the final 2 minutes. He may have played the other 48 minutes. 58 minutes, that is. Yeah, it's weird. Like, Brandon Staley 2022 versus 2021 is a completely different person. Like, I'm not one that believes in alien abductions, but it feels like Brandon Staley's been abducted and is somewhere in a spaceship hovering over the earth, wondering why his doppelganger is doing everything the exact opposite that he would do it.
It's weird. Jaguars look legit, man.
Yeah, I mean, they played a team that looked like the Jaguars last year, if we're being honest. But yeah, it's a win. It's on the road. It counts. They're 2-1. It's awesome. I'm glad they're having success. I'm glad Doug's winning. It is hilarious. James Robinson had 100 rushing yards, had a 50-yard. He ripped off a 50-yarder. And all I could think was that Urban Meyer benched him last year because he fumbled the ball once.
And even Trevor Lawrence was like, James really should be in there.
Right.
Coach.
Right.
It's unbelievable. It's like all you needed was just not Urban Meyer. Not Urban Meyer. Jen Silvius in the chat asks, semi-related, should I buy tickets to Chargers-Chiefs in November? I'm going to be in LA that weekend. Yeah, just to go see the stadium. And it's Chargers-Chiefs. You got Herbert and Mahomes. You should absolutely buy tickets to that. Okay.
Oh, yes. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to another matchup in the AFC South. The Colts beat the Chiefs 20-17.
God, the AFC West owned by the AFC South.
Breech and I mentioned this briefly during the early odds look ahead, but it did not, like, it was almost like, how did that loss happen? It was one of those where a clearly superior team is on the road and just makes just enough mistakes where they allowed the team that was trailing to hang around, and you just give them a little bit of hope.
I'm going to say 2 words as to why they lost, and Breech, you can explain it because this is your area. Special teams.
Sure.
All special teams. I've never seen more of a special teams disaster. We started the day with this disaster, ended the day with a great punters duel. So it almost saved the day. But I mean, you don't really hear about special teams costing you the game over 4 quarters. Like, maybe your kicker misses a field goal with 3 seconds left, and that's the deciding factor. But over the course of a game to have your special teams totally melt down, the Chiefs muffed a punt after Indianapolis's first possession. The Colts recovered at the 4-yard line. Boom, drove 4 yards, scored a touchdown. They missed a field goal from 34 yards out.
Let me stop you real quick, because Sky Moore muffed the punt, the rookie out of Western Michigan. The very next drive on the punt, he said, okay, I'll get out of the way. They downed the punt like at the 2-yard line, so he didn't even do his job in catching the ball at the 10 or wherever it would have been. And I was like, okay, this guy's in his own head. That's a problem. That's a bad sign for the rest of the day. Okay, continue.
Yes, and Chiefs actually punted on that drive. So, yeah. So then you have Matt Amendola, the backup kicker, who's only in because Harrison Butker injured his ankle. Amendola misses a 34-yard field goal, misses an extra point. So now we're at 4 points that you're missing just from your kicker, along with the 7 you gave up to the muff punt. So we're up to 11. Then Andy Reid decides to get crazy and calls for a fake field goal on 4th and 11. Like, if it's 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, you want to be tricky and have your holder throw a pass. I get it. But your holder is not going to complete an 11-yard pass. And, of course, he didn't.
But if it had been thrown properly, I only saw the replay in passing. Would it have been enough for a first down?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, who knows? But so right there, if you kick the field goals, that's 14 points the Chiefs could have had, or 14-point difference in a game that the Colts won by 3.
So, less impressive win, the Broncos or the Colts?
The Colts.
I think the Broncos is less impressive.
No, because the Broncos
Is
weren't given the game. The Broncos took it. They weren't given the game. The Colts were given the game.
My bad. I forgot the Broncos are your Super Bowl team. What
do you mean that the Colts didn't? Jimmy G stepped out of the back of the end zone.
A muffed punt that gives you the ball at the 4-yard line. That's a free touchdown. A missed field goal. A missed extra point.
You do understand that the 49ers...
A horrible fake field goal call. And Patrick Mahomes spatting with Eric Bieniemy.
You do understand
that's the most overblown crap.
The Broncos won by 1 point, and the safety cost you 2 points. So
Yeah, Matt Ryan drove down the field, scored a touchdown, and then they picked off Patrick Mahomes in September. Like, they took it.
I was outraged by the way that they showed Patrick Mahomes and
the enemy
chatting.
You want to take that upstairs to the HR? Complain about it with CBS because that's CBS. That was Nancy Romo.
So, they weren't working.
Asking us to please drug test Breech. Actually, in his contract, he can't be drug tested or charged with any felonies for work-related activities.
The Chiefs died by 1,000 paper cuts. They made 1,000 mistakes.
Yeah,
the Colts did not look great in this game. I don't think that's that.
Again, Jimmy G stepped out of the back of the end zone, so like I don't know what to do.
So any concern?
Right,
like
the Broncos dominated the 49ers offense the whole entire game. The 49ers had one drive in that game.
Again, stop hitting the pipe there off air. Let me ask you this.
Brinson just said that the Colts won it with interception. So did the 49ers.
So your Broncos
forced 2 turnovers.
I can't handle a whole season this Broncos thing.
Well, just let me sort of tweak a little bit. So
you
your Broncos,
you brought it up.
Your Broncos, Breech, are tied for first place with the Chiefs. Brinson, I'll start with you. Are you less concerned about the Chiefs or the Broncos?
Yeah, all right, Breech. You want to just want to tip your cap and we'll move on from this question because it's very obvious. Like, all right, you can right now live or die. You got to pick the winner. You got to pick the winner. Who finishes higher in the AFC West, the Chiefs or the Broncos?
I'm going to go with who I picked in the preseason, the Chiefs. Why would I switch?
Oh, see, he can't even tell. He told it himself.
Classic Breech. He
I had the Chiefs to win the division.
The wild card, so he can also get the Chiefs right. That is so you.
Thank you.
God.
Yeah, there we go. Let's get Breech. Let's ride tattoo on her.
Like a Russell Wilson.
Let's ride.
Mr. Unlimited.
Let's ride.
All right.
What's next? I'm not worried about the Chiefs. The Colts, it's a huge win. They're somehow 1-1-1. I don't think they're very good.
I mean, the Chiefs should have put them away.
Yes,
I do agree with that. I mean, like the Chiefs allowed the Colts to hang around.
Harrison Butker's coming back.
Yeah,
and
the Chiefs struggled a little bit last year too. Like they are integrating a bunch of new parts. What's weird is that it was against a Gus Bradley defense after Patrick Mahomes had absolutely shredded Gus Bradley defenses every time they played for the last 3 years.
Gus Bradley, special teams coach, they would have crushed him. Unfortunately, he coached defense.
I mean, Mahomes wasn't very good.
He's 20-35. I mean, he was okay. He was good enough to win. As Breech just gave me 14 points.
Hey guys, Matt Ryan and Frank Reich are just finding their way together. Okay,
there you go. What's next?
All right, the Titans and the Raiders.
Gosh, you know what I was thinking before you get into this? No one in our draft of 20 teams took the Titans.
We're losers. Titans are they're 1-2. What are we talking about? Raiders are 0-3. Obviously, the Titans are more likely the team to make a playoff run than the Raiders.
Well, yeah, the Raiders are done.
They're done.
The Raiders,
right?
They're done. Like Breech is incredibly optimistic about the AFC West. Is there a path, Breech, for the Raiders to get to the playoffs? You think?
Is there a path? I mean, you look at who they've played so far, and the 3 teams they've lost to, and I mean, it's a disaster right now. How do you feel being Josh McDaniels and you flamed out during your stint as the Broncos coach? Now here you are. You blew a 20-0 lead to the Cardinals last week. You probably could have beaten the Chargers in week 1. You lost that game by 5 points. Now you lost to the Titans by 2, and your season's basically hanging on by a thread with 2 AFC West divisional opponents coming up in the next 2 weeks.
So you mentioned Josh McDaniels. What do you think Devontae Adams thinking? Do you think he wishes he was still in Green Bay?
Yes.
I mean, look, I don't know. There was never any public animosity between him and Aaron Rodgers, and clearly he said he wanted to be with Derek Carr, his buddy from college, but it doesn't seem to be clicking. And that's not entirely Derek Carr's fault. In fact, there was an interception in the end zone that went right through Darren Waller's hand late in that game. That's on Darren Waller. So I don't know if Derek Carr has been the issue. The defense is an absolute abomination. That's a huge concern. The Titans look like the 2021 Titans the way they played this football game. Ryan Tannehill was pretty much efficient. Derrick Henry looked like himself finally. I don't know what to make of this Raiders team, other than they're not going to the playoffs. I don't think there's just no way they can go at 0-3.
Well, the thing is, I think most people felt like they were going to be the 3rd or 4th place team.
I had them going to the playoffs.
Oh, you did? Did you have them in 2nd or 3rd?
It must have been, I think, 3rd. I think 3 teams that had them 3rd.
But, you couldn't lose. They had 3 winnable games to start off, and that was it. And the thing is, like, their defense just looked gassed. I mean, against the Cardinals, they pitched a shutout in the first half, and then Kyler Murray diced them up. In this game, nothing. I mean, Ryan Tannehill looked like Tom Brady in his prime out there in the first half. You look at what the Titans did. It was, I mean, you mentioned that he looked like last year's team where the Titans literally went out and had 3 drives in a row of 75 yards or more to start the game. Like, that's insane. And so
also worth noting, the Raiders are 1 of 12 on third down.
I mean, just like the 49ers, if you go 1 of double digits on third down, you're not winning a football game. And they still both teams still had a look. The thing about the Titans is if they can, like, Derrick Henry looked like Derrick Henry today. And they got him involved in the passing game early, which I thought was really smart, threw off the Raiders in their defensive game plan. If you can get a lead, if the Titans can get a lead, they can win. I think they can beat just about anybody, I mean, with a few exceptions. But
Are they the best team in that division?
No, the Jaguars are.
I think that's right. I'm not going to push back on that. They're better than the Colts, though.
Any team in that division could win the division. I wouldn't be entirely shocked.
Not true.
I mean, probably not the Texans.
And 100% not the Texans.
I mean,
but yeah, the other 3, sure.
The Texans are 35-1 to win the division.
Go ahead and sprinkle a little money on that. And by sprinkle, I mean flush it down the toilet.
Hey, no reason to keep jumping on the Jags, folks. Plus 175.
That's it.
Yeah, Colts are still the favorite to win the division.
Don't throw your money away on that.
I mean, Matt Ryan, I know he won and he came back, but like it doesn't.
He was taking an absolute whooping back there.
Yeah, that offensive line's not helping him. It doesn't feel like the AFC West, the AFC South has, like, none of those teams feel, even the Jaguars, these don't feel like very dangerous.
So if you're Josh McDaniels and you're 0-3 and your team's only getting worse, are you already having internal conversations with yourself about, hey, can't we get out of Derek Carr's contract situation after the season? Or because you just traded for Devontae Adams and he wanted to play for Derek Carr, do you feel like you're stuck with Derek Carr?
Here's the thing. So if you have a top 5 pick, there are going to be a lot of quarterbacks in this class. Obviously, they'll sort themselves out draft-wise. You can draft a quarterback that Josh McDaniels want. You can trade Devontae Adams if the contract works itself in such a way. And the thing about the college game now, you can bring in these wide receivers and they can contribute right away. Look, you ain't getting Devontae Adams production out of anybody, but you can draft 2 or 3 wide receivers that can come in and can help you. And if that's what Josh McDaniels wants to do in terms of his team, then that's a conversation worth having probably. The only thing I would caution against is that, remember when Josh coached the Broncos in 2010 and fired everyone and drafted Tim Tebow and drafted the cornerback from Wake Forest, whose name I can never remember, traded him to the first round to get him. And
you traded the second round, traded a future first to get him in the second
Thank you. Yeah, that's what it was. I always get that backwards.
If you hadn't said the quarterback from Wake Forest, I'd be able to remember his name immediately.
Right. But he played like a year and a half. The point is that, do you want to go down that road again if you're Josh McDaniels after having purportedly learned a lesson from your last experience as a head coach 12 years ago? That's the only thing I would warn against.
I'm looking for the player question right now.
Breech, do you have any thoughts on that?
Alfonso Smith.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Good catch.
But I don't know. I just think the Raiders are in a precarious situation because I think that Josh McDaniels is probably frustrated with the offense. Obviously he's not going to say anything, and most of that you're going to pin on the quarterback. And if you're Devontae Adams, you're under the impression that you came to Las Vegas to play with Derek Carr for at minimum 3 years. Right. And there's no way you can really get out of Devontae Adams' his contracts on that.
I'm laughing because Sam Bruce Smith in the comments asked, why would you let Josh McDaniels draft a quarterback? I'm assuming in reference to Tim Tebow. Also, Josh Steichen mentioned, did you see that McDaniels and Mark Davis had a meeting, and Paul Gutierrez of ESPN tweeted after the game, before he met with the media, Raiders coach Josh McDaniels enters the interview room after a lengthy closed-door meeting with owner Mark Davis.
So Broncos at home, at Chiefs, Texans at home, at Saints. That is and then at Jaguars and Colts at home. That is they're not firing Josh McDaniels in his first year.
Especially not after 3 games they could have won. They easily could have won. I mean, you can't.
Let me tell you something. If they fire Josh McDaniels, he will be the new Broncos coach 14 seconds after he gets fired.
Or maybe the new Patriots offensive coordinator. I mean, yeah.
quick stop in New England where he gets up.
I do think Breech's question is a good one though, because it's like, what do you do with this? I mean,
fix the defense and the offensive line. That's where you start.
I got blocked by the reason the Carr family hates me is because I said that when John Gruden got hired, Derek Carr's contract was structured such that it felt obvious that Gruden was going to move on after 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 if he couldn't find somebody in the draft. And now, I mean, he has his dead cap hit next year is $5.625 billion.
I don't think Derek Carr is at the top of the top 3 things they're concerned about in terms of fixing.
Okay.
Do you?
Yeah, but if you upgrade at quarterback, you don't have to fix the other problems if your quarterback's good enough because they make up for that.
All right, let me ask you this:
how about Mac Hollins? Where the hell did that come from?
Where are you going to find the quarterback that Breech? He's a top 10 quarterback.
That's a good question, Ryan.
Well, okay, let's say that the Raiders bottom out and have a terrible season, and that's not crazy because the reason it'll happen
0-3.
Right, but the reason it'll happen is because the Mike Mayock, John Gruden regime missed on so many draft picks, and it's left them in really
fair enough. So let's say they bottom out, then what?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If there's a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young or somebody
I just made this case 5 minutes ago. Maybe we're getting nice. I said, there could be a situation where you can draft your quarterback if you have a top 5 pick. There'll be plenty of guys out there. And Breech mentioned, well, Devontae Adams came to Las Vegas to play with Derek Carr. And I said, you could even trade Devontae Adams if the contract numbers work out, because in college, these wide receivers can do a lot of things that they couldn't do 10 years ago. You're not going to replace Devontae Adams with one person, but you get a first-round pick for him or a second-round pick and continue to try to build the roster that was laid bare once Mayock / mostly John Gruden got their hands on it.
It's actually not that crazy to trade Devontae Adams based on his cap numbers.
So there you go. And
maybe if you're Josh McDaniels, you call up your old buddy Tommy Brady, who will be a free agent if he plays in 2023.
Ooh.
Let it go. Let it go. You have first round pick.
Devontae Adams to the Patriots. All right, let's. The Raiders are in a tough spot, but they are losing these. Like you're at least the games you're like competitive in them. I think that feels better. Maybe.
No, it feels worse.
Okay.
Joe Musso in the chat. Brinson didn't smoke enough 6 today. I'm out.
I spent. Yeah, I told you I didn't go to the state. I missed the state home game for the first time in a long time, and my voice has said just for the people.
2 weeks. NC State comes to Syracuse to face the undefeated Orange men. They're not the Orange. Sorry,
it's college game day at Clemson next week. I would not plan on finding my voice aesthetically pleasing next Sunday evening.
Okay, just like I read this Sunday, but I'm used to it.
I don't care if the Panthers lose, Sam.
Yes,
I respect when the Panthers lose. The Panthers.
He
That's right.
does.
Anyway, let's take a quick break. When we come back, some NFC North shenanigans next.
Yeah.
Vikings 28, Lions 24. By the way, smash the like button if you're in the chat. You can also write, what was our Musso tag?
Brinson smokes Virginia Slims.
Yeah, hashtag, we don't want to say fire Musso, but.
Jeez, what is going on?
They say to fire me in the chat all the time.
Man just got married. He's got a family. You want to fire him?
Did you just get married?
God, Brinson. Took a dark turn.
He got married at Kevin Costner's ranch, and it was Yellowstone themed.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a fun
thing. And no one on the podcast got an invite.
None.
I'll be honest.
You didn't even get one, Wilson?
Get what?
An invite to Moose's wedding?
No, all I asked for was they had a Yellowstone font themed hat with an M on it. Didn't get one of those either. That's all I asked for. Nothing.
I got sent a Kevin Costner autograph.
He's probably got hundreds of those sitting around.
Yeah, I was going to trade it for a Brinson Sucks hat, but no go.
All right, Vikings 28, Lions 24. Just for that, we might not talk about the Bears.
Thank you, Jesus.
Tough, big win for many. And somebody asked in the chat, Yellowstone, the show or the park? Yellowstone, the show.
The show, yeah, that's right.
I've never actually seen it. I've only seen one episode of it.
Yeah, you're down on it. It's good.
Yeah. Anyway, the Vikings stole. If this felt like last year's Vikings team.
Yeah, and last year's Lions
team. Yeah, it's like out of nowhere, just sort of stole it, and the Lions had so many chances to take care of this, and they did. I don't know. I mean, I was really rooting for the Lions. I think I picked them to win, but I'm not 100% sure.
It was a tough week for everybody.
Yeah, well, I actually had a great week. It's just like, oh man, if this Lions team wants to be the frisky underdog, the plucky, fun story of the season, they gotta close games like this. And I know it's tough with that defense, but they had the Vikings on completely on the ropes. I mean, 24-14 in the fourth quarter. Dalvin Cook is ruled out. And there were just a couple of moments where they just couldn't do it. And eventually Kirk Cousins somehow, because it was 1 o'clock, goes down there.
That's right.
That's touchdown pass to KJ Osborne. Wins the game 9 of 13 for 125 yards and a touchdown in the fourth quarter, 125.5 passer rating after a miserable first 3 quarters. Justin Jefferson actually only had 12 more yards than Jalen Reagor, which is awkward.
Hey, by the way, shout out to Jeffrey Okudah, who was long considered a bust because he's been injured in recent years. He's been balling out this year, and I think he had a lot to do with shutting down JJ. So that's a good sign for the Lions for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this Lions team, this could be a playoff team in this muddled, NFL season.
But the Lions are like the Chargers where, we always talk about, but this happened. Like they were doing so well, but this happened.
It's incredibly disrespectful to compare the Chargers to the Lions, who historically have been terrible in recent years, where at least the Chargers have been competitive.
I mean, that's true. That is true.
But don't you feel though, like if you're, I don't know, I'm just curious how Lions fans feel about this, but like I would feel enthusiastic about the direction that the franchise was moving for probably the first time, I guess maybe since you drafted Stafford in 2009, but that, but
well,
really
they went to the playoffs subsequent to that with Stafford. Remember that?
Yeah. Like, but it does feel like they are building something that is potentially concrete and sustainable.
I feel like the 30,000 foot view is that they feel the way you're describing. When you get it a little granularity, you're angry that they lose stupid games like this, which was a calling card a year ago.
Well, and then the question becomes like, if they lose games like this all the time, will there be patience with Dan Campbell, who's part of this building?
But it's not all the time. Last week they looked like they were going to let the lead slip, and they held on and beat who they beat last week.
Washington.
Yeah, that game where they were trouncing them, and then Washington came back. Carson Wentz looked pretty good. Turns out he's still worse than Geno. We can talk about that later. And then they held on and were able to win that game, a game they would have lost a year ago for sure. By the way, our guy Brady Quinn called this game, and there was a Jamal Williams foul for doing the old Hinkle McCrinkleberry.
I texted Brady the YouTube in the middle of the thing. He's like Brady answers his text like while he's announcing games. It's so crazy.
Brady actually said during the telecast as they were going to break, that's a lot of fluidity there.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty funny.
It was a little disappointing that Brady didn't know the Hinkle McCrinkleberry reference.
There's no way on planet Earth he would know that.
But his remarks about the situation with Jamal Williams getting flagged for multiple pumps were rather amusing.
Yeah, he was not flapped. He was unflappable throughout it all, which I thought was funny. And Jamal Adams he's great for the NFL. He's great for the Lions. Just unfortunately, he had a good day today too. Unfortunately, they got Kirk Cousins, which is.
And I love that the ref did throw the flag because the celebration isn't as good if the ref doesn't throw the flag.
Right. And it was like the third pump where he's like, there's the third pump and he throws it.
Imagine a middle-aged old man counting hip thrusts before you throw a flag. Come on, dude.
Yeah, we got worse things going on in the NFL with these old men.
One thing on this game real quick is that Dan Campbell said afterward that he regretted attempting a 54-yard field goal on 4th and 4 from the Vikings 36-yard line with 1:14 left. Austin Seibert missed the kick. So then the Vikings took over at the 44. Kirk Cousins, boom, 28-yard pass, boom, 28-yard touchdown pass. Kirk Cousins literally threw 2 28-yard passes in a row and drove 56 yards on 2 plays because 1 o'clock Kirk is unstoppable.
Yeah, and I do wonder, and
he did that possession after they went for it on 4th and 1, right?
No, that was after the missed field goal is when the Vikings turned the ball over on downs. They had their own failed 4th down after the Lions failed 4th down. And then the Lions got the ball back, missed a field goal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Lions had a failed 4th and 1 on the possession before, and then they went for the long field goal, probably because he was nervous about having not already gotten, they missed the 4th down. He reactionarily went for the field goal.
But it would have been like even because Seibert had already missed a field goal in the game from closer. And so it's like, man, we already failed in 4th down. My kicker's already missed a kick. Who do I trust now? What do I do?
He picked wrong.
And
it's 36, so you can't really punt, and it's like you don't trust your defense to stop them. It's a tough spot. I mean, those are the thin margins for these games. All right, more likely to the Vikings are 2-1. And I don't know how I feel about them.
I feel like I always feel about him. Kirk Cousins is the coach, the quarterback, and I'm sure Mike Zimmer was throwing a beer can in his television when he threw that touchdown pass Kirk Cousins did to give him the lead.
Like they had a dominant week 1 win against a Packers team that just doesn't show up in
But
week
again,
1.
if things aren't going well, at halftime, Aaron Rodgers is mailing it in.
Right, but I'm saying that the 3-game sample size we have this Kevin O'Connell start is like hard to wrap your head around what the
Let me ask you this. Let's say it's a Vikings-Broncos Super Bowl next Sunday. Who are you taking? Both teams are 2-1.
Is it in prime time or not?
It's at 2 a.m. prime time somewhere, undisclosed location. So the game could be prime time where it's locally being telecast. It could be in Turkmenistan for all we know.
Actually, the Vikings are in London next week, and Breech did double check to make sure it wasn't prime time before making a pick. It's like 2 p.m., so they're fine. I would take the Vikings over the Broncos.
10 times out of 10.
I would take the Broncos.
You would take the Vikings, right?
I would take the Vikings.
Yeah. I trust the Vikings more, but
that spread would be minus 4.5.
Interesting. All right. Oh, what could have been? Actually, it would have been terrible because I would have lost my survivor pool. But the Bengals beat the Jets 27-12. No real sweat in the Breech household. And this one, Joe Burrow, much, much better. And reminded me, Breech, a little bit of last year in the sense that the Bengals were they struggled out of the gate a little bit, or at least were like cautious out of the gate because Burrow's coming off the ACL. Only sacked twice after 13 sacks in his first 2 games. They scored 27 points after averaging 18.5 in the first 2. No interceptions, 3 touchdowns. And Jamar Chase wasn't even involved that much. I think this was about as good an outing as you could hope for as a Bengals fan, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we were talking about last week. You guys asking what my panic level was, and it was 0, but it would shoot up to 99.9% if they lost to the Jets. I just didn't feel like this was a game they were going to lose. And like you just mentioned, Brinson, it was, look, Burrow had his appendectomy. He missed 4 weeks. There was no time to, you can't miss that much practice and not have there be some repercussions. The offense looked out of sync for the first couple weeks, and it was once they get all on the same page, they're going to be fine. And so it's good that they got that figured out before they play a good team like the Dolphins on Thursday. And Burrow was clutch in this game. It wasn't just they threw 3 touchdown passes. All 3 of them came on 3rd down. So they were huge throws. One of them was a 3rd and goal from the 12-yard line. Another one was 56-yarder to Tyler Boyd on 3rd and 7. And then he had another 3rd and goal touchdown pass. And so just to see him make those clutch throws, I think is a big deal for the Bengals. And this is the Bengals team everyone expected to see.
So, Breech, I have 2 questions for you. First, should T. Higgins sit down for about a month? Because this is a second concussion in 3 weeks.
I mean, they play the Dolphins Thursday?
I mean, you sound worse than the Tua doctors.
You're
a medical doctor for the Chargers? What's going on here?
I mean, he was he got absolutely destroyed. It was a dirty hit, and then he was laying lifeless on the field.
No, I mean, like if you can't pass concussion protocol, take time off. Obviously.
Oh, wow. What a great take that is.
Well,
if you can't pass the concussion protocol, maybe you should take some time off. Yeah.
I mean, you can't blanket say he should take a month off, but he probably should not be on the field Thursday.
I will say this.
Having suffered 2 concussions.
That's how badly Breech wants the Bengals to win.
Exactly.
He's
like, he said he shouldn't be on the field Thursday. That gives him 2 full weeks to heal.
Look, Breech is like, I don't have much in here, but I will give him my brain.
And finally, how did the offensive line look? Because I didn't pay attention to this game because Joe Flacco was Flacco-ing it.
I don't believe that the Jets actually made it into the red zone until their next to last possession when they were down 2 scores and just sort of, it gets at the end of the game. They're sort of winging it, just moving it. And then Flacco got a strip sack. Trey Hendrickson was great in this game. But I'll let Breech answer the offensive line issue.
Yeah, I mean, they looked good. Burrow only got sacked twice. He was moving around well in the pocket, which was a plus. And again, that's what you want to see. You just want to see him more comfortable. And look, the Bengals looked good. Granted, it was against the Jets, so I'm not going to sit here and say they're going back to the Super Bowl, but this was what everyone expected the Bengals to be.
Sam asked in the comments, is Zach Wilson back next week? I think he will be available. It looks like they play the Steelers. I would bring him back just for more.
Have you looked to see what the line with the Steelers Jets is?
It's in, where is it? Pittsburgh. I'm going to say it's a pick 'em.
It's actually, kind of funny. It was, unless it's see how it just moved. Oh, Steelers are actually out to 4.
Yeah.
I think
the Jets.
I think this Jets team is really bad.
I'm telling you,
they can't do anything on offense, and that's fine.
Sounds like the Steelers. All right, what's next?
Would you take the Steelers in Survivor?
No.
Okay.
Jeez. I don't know. Like that's probably a pretty good selection at this point in week 4.
There's only 2 spreads I think that are more than like 6 point or like 6 point, more than 3 points or something like that next week.
And I'm guessing you try to stack the teams to benefit you late in the season, and it always blows up in your face.
Bengals won a must-get-right game in New York against a bad Jets team. That's a good sign for the Bengals moving forward. Jets are in hot water. Eagles. Our Eagles. My Eagles. Debo out.
You say that.
Billy in, and the Eagles are rolling 24-8. Jalen Hurts very well could be the MVP through 3 games after I got berated for saying he could potentially take a leap this year, like just a small leap. I didn't even need a big one.
Who yelled at you about that?
Passing yards per game, 55 rushing yards per game.
Who berated you? Twitter,
commenters, Eagles fans, everybody called me crazy.
No one did. He just makes up these stories to.
What are you talking about? I would go on and be like, I think the Eagles are going to win the NFC. And be like, Jalen Hurts can't win a playoff game.
Brinson,
he can't win a playoff game last week.
Brinson does have the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Can't believe it.
Yeah, but I picked them to win. I've been saying for months.
Yeah, I think we all picked them to win the division.
Yeah, so. I don't know why that's
300 passing yards and 50 rush yards through 3 games. This guy's good.
No, what you're preaching to the choir here. I don't know what you expect to happen. We all agree with you that Jalen Hurts is playing fantastic. Devontae Smith is fantastic. AJ Brown is a number 2 receiver on this team, which is sort of funny.
What?
What's wrong?
Are you being joking? Or are you being serious?
Devontae Smith went for 169. It's a half joke. Like they're both 1.5.
Yeah. They are loaded.
Yeah.
That was okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. The defense sacked Carson Wentz 6 times in the first half. I thought they were playing the Bengals for a while.
Yeah. This is a good Eagles team. I think. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFC?
Yes. Next question.
Yeah, but that was fast.
Who else is it?
49ers. That's weird.
Rams.
Oh my God. All right, here the okay, this is kind of weird. Here are the current playoff teams by seed number in the NFC. I would, if you're like, I'll give you $1,000 to put the top 7, and we covered the NFL for a living. Give me the top 7 seeds in the NFC. There's no chance I would have gotten it. 1, the Eagles. 2, the Rams.
You would have gotten that one. You're smart.
I've gotten the Eagles. 3, the Vikings. 4, Tampa Bay. 5, the Giants. 6, Green Bay, and 7, Chicago.
Dallas
and Carolina are 8, 9, and San Francisco 10. This is wide the F open, man. Billy, where are we at on the Eagles after this dominating performance against a Washington team that I don't believe scored until like a weird safety late?
Garbage time touchdown.
You're muted, by the way, just so you know.
No, yeah, I know.
Wilson talking muted, and then Wilson was like, Breech like,
No, I mean, it was great to watch. They played really well. Devontae Smith, obviously. I mean, it was just nice to see Devontae Smith kind of show out and have a breakout game. Wish he would have had a 1,000-yard season last year. He came pretty close. Still, I think he had the most yards for a Eagles wide receiver since Deshaun Jackson last year. But it was just nice to see him kind of have a breakout game, especially struggling at week 1. And, the defense kind of balled out, and it just kind of was just a full circle moment seeing Carson Wentz on his back for most of the game. So,
yeah, it's always a shame to see Carson Wentz getting smashed into the Diva's still on here on audio. Diva, do you want to say something about this game?
I think I'm leaving the pod after tonight. I think the next time I'll see or talk to you guys is probably in February in Arizona when the Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl
against the Bengals.
Yeah, we'll take it.
No.
If the Eagles and the Vikings play in the NFC Championship game, who will you root for?
Stop.
Why the Vikings?
He's a Vikings fan.
I hate the Vikings. Ryan, I saved this tweet specifically for you.
Oh,
and
come on.
I just think this kind of sums up the experience. And based on who it's about, it takes me something.
It's obviously about me, I assume.
No.
This is your final show.
This is from @MLife. Summing up the game today, he said, watching Wentz extend a play reminds me a lot of Brett Favre. Not necessarily talent-wise, but from the stealing millions of dollars aspect.
That's good.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, man. That's
9 sacks. I mean, Jason Kelsey showed his jersey after the game, the swap with Carson Wentz, and it is just filled with grass stains. He said he's never going to wash it. And it is just one of the dirtiest quarterback jerseys you'll ever see. So that about sums it up. You win this week in the Geno Smith Carson Wentz competition, but it's not over yet.
2-1.
It is kind of like very I don't know if it's karmic or like it's just like the Eagles stomped the crap out of Carson Wentz like on the final week that Deva's on the the final show that Deva's on the podcast.
I think the play that encapsulated this game for me was when Devontae Smith had one of his many amazing catches. This one down the sideline, clearly out of bounds, and Ron Rivera was too slow to throw the challenge flag. Like he literally threw it as the play had already been snapped, and they couldn't overturn it. It felt like Nathaniel Hackett was in the booth instructing him on whether to challenge that play, but that stuck out to me in addition to the 45,000 sacks, just the ineptitude.
People in the chat are wondering where Deva's going. Deva, we don't really know. I think it's like
he's going to produce the draft podcast.
I thought he's
going to produce any show that Brinson's not on.
I thought it was like a Young Life, sort of like find your mission in Argentina or Chile thing. Find yourself. Like, can you go? Or is he staying at CBS?
They gave me a pretty difficult task. They said, see what you can do and try to launch a Pete Prisco podcast. And I said, impossible. No one will listen to that. You can't build an audience for that type of guy. So we're moving on to other projects, primarily featuring Ryan Wilson.
In all seriousness, Devo has done such a good job on this podcast, which is considered by many in the office a launching pad for careers. So Billy, you're in great shape. Devo did such a good job that he's been promoted up, and he's going.
The term I usually hear is black hole, but go ahead.
Sure. Maybe he's being tricked into thinking he's promoted. He's about to get fired. Who knows? One thing on Devontae Smith, I thought it was really impressive how physical he was on some of those big catches. I mean, not a big guy. Like, this Eagles team has, man. They're fun. I like them a lot.
Yeah, that's why Devo's leaving. He can't stand the fact that you're on the Eagles bandwagon.
Are you guys? I got one question for you though. Are you guys kind of scared about the Eagles not being able to score in the second half?
No.
No, but only because week one they were up big against the Lions. I'm a little worried about maybe Sirianni's cycle, like the game plan with the lack of scoring, because their defense is good enough where I think they feel like they can shut teams down. This is clearly like let's just burn clock and get out of here.
It was 24-0. I mean,
yeah.
Shut up, Billy. I mean, the Steelers haven't scored 24 points all year, and he's talking about are you worried about them scoring points when they're up 24-0?
The Eagles did score more than the Broncos have scored all season long. That's true. All right, moving. Billy has a very fair question, and Ryan told him to shut up. Welcome to 1:20 a.m. on week 3 of Sunday night. Rams 20, Cardinals 12.
Again,
Donald hit 100 sacks.
This feels like the Spider-Man meme again. Like the Rams are just sort of teetering. They get a lead, and they sort of they can't figure out what to do. And then Kyler Murray's playing backyard ball, just slinging the ball all over the yard. Crazy things are happening. None of them usually good by the time the game's over.
Kyler apparently had some words for his receivers about, he said, when you're playing with me, you can't go to sleep on a play. You need to understand that anything could happen, and you need to be ready at any time, because he was upset about the drops involved in the.
That's something he should be saying.
Sure,
I feel like
Marquise Brown 17 targets, 14 catches, 140 yards. Kyler Murray now 1-7 against the Rams, his worst record in his career. 7 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Sean McVay, Raheem Morris, Wade Phillips et al. Kind of own Kyler Murray and the Cards and Cliff Kingsbury. Arizona now 1-2. What man, kind of wish I'd bet the Rams to win the NFC West right now.
Oh, okay. Well, what'd you bet?
No, the Rams were plus. What's that?
Yeah, the Rams were plus money.
The Rams were like plus 120 to win the NFC West before the season, and
I thought you were the biggest Rams supporter on the East Coast. What?
Yeah, you were going to give Matthew Stafford's Hall of Fame induction speech. Yeah, you've got it on.
I was in on the 49ers winning the division this year. Oops.
I mean, this is what we were kind of talking about last week, that the Kyler Murray running around and making plays is not a sustainable way to run your offense. Like,
Right.
yay, it was awesome watching it against the Raiders, and it's awesome that it works 4 or 5 times a season. But this is why you can't keep doing it. And, if you're yelling at your receivers because they don't even know where you're going to be, when there's no rhyme or reason to where you're running, you're just running around and launching passes. And, they obviously have scramble drills, but when Kyler Murray's doing like a double scramble that no other quarterback can do, it's just tough to predict what this offense is going to do. And it doesn't feel like the Cardinals are going to be that good, guys.
I don't think, are the Rams that good?
I mean, well, if they're not, then the Cardinals just lost to a not very good Rams team.
I mean, is the NFC West secretly trash?
Well, I think there were only 2 teams legitimately, whether it's going to be the 49ers or Cardinals, in addition to the Rams, that were going to make noise. I didn't think it was going to be like the AFC West.
Well, the Broncos are winning the AFC West. I'm not sure that's
I mean, like in August.
I know. Well, last year it was like, ooh, could 4 teams from the NFC West make the playoffs? Because the Seahawks have Russ, et cetera. I think the Rams are in stacking wins mode, and the Cardinals and the 49ers and the Seahawks are more in figuring out our identity mode. And this is not a very good division. I mean, look, the NFC is so wide. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think we say Philly's the best team. I'm fine with saying the Rams are the second best team, and then maybe Tampa Bay or Green Bay. Like, those 4 teams.
I would take Green Bay and Tampa Bay over LA.
I would take LA over Tampa Bay as currently constructed, but maybe in a couple of weeks or months, yes.
So Sam in the comments asks, is Cliff the most fraudulent coach in the league? Moo thinks it's Zach Taylor, but I think it's Cliff.
Well, I mean, Cliff
did they announce
he hasn't been to a Super Bowl.
Like
Right.
Once was a barista for Cliff Kingsbury in like Texas.
Well,
What?
the thing is, you're the Cardinals. You just gave Cliff Kingsbury an extension. You just gave Kyler Murray an extension. What happens if the team implodes this season? Like, what's your next course of action?
Saying that Nebraska hires Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff's not going to do that.
You might have an off. You might not have I might get double dipped.
I'm fine with I'm fine with the Packers are better than the Rams. That's totally cool with me. But I think there's very clearly right now, if you could get could you get plus money on Eagles, Rams, Packers, Bucs winning the division? Because that's a pretty good parlay if you can bet it. Right?
Why would that be plus money?
Because it's four things. I'll tell you what it is real quick. I just think that those divisions, like those teams, look like they are going to the playoffs. Oh my God, the Packers are minus 120 to win the division.
Ooh, it's because they're in a 3-way tie for first place.
Mm-hmm.
Not just 1 o'clock Kirk, but also the Chicago Bears are in first, Brinson. Don't forget about that.
All right.
Oh yeah. All right. Speaking of which, we have a couple games. Let's do this.
Show them some respect.
We got 3 trash games. We'll get through them quickly.
3.
Anyway, the Rams are figuring it out. The Rams will be fine. 4-1 would be what that parlay would pay, by the way. Bears 23, Texans 20.
Oh God.
Oh my God, I had a parlay. It was Jaguars, Texans, Titans, and Packers. And the freaking Texan, Davis Mills throws that pick with 45 seconds left or something like that, 25 seconds left. And the Bears just in field goal range and won it. Justin Fields did not look good in this game.
No.
I
8 of 17 for 106, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He ran for 47 yards. And the whole talking point coming in was, I think he completed 28 passes coming into the week, maybe, or attempted 28 passes. It's the same old. I don't think this is all Justin Fields. I think the lack of playmakers around him. Cole Kmet, I think, had 2 targets in the first 2 weeks. He had 3 targets on Sunday. Who else? I mean, there's Mooney, there's St. Brown, Equimanius. He had a long catch, and by long I mean 20 yards, and that's it, man. I mean, Byron Pringle.
But what do you do if you're the Bears when you're going into this game the first 2 weeks? You're like, yeah, we don't really feel comfortable.
Look at the years on this graphic, by the way. They've attempted 45 passes. It's the only teams that are fewer are the 74 Bills, the 82 Patriots, the 72 Bears, the 72 Falcons, and the 73 Rams.
Yeah, what were we saying, Breech?
Well, I was saying basically that you're the Bears coaching staff and you're saying, well, we don't really feel comfortable calling all these pass plays because Justin Fields doesn't seem like that's not conducive to our offense being successful. And then you know what? We'll call a few pass plays today. They only call 17, and what happens? Something bad almost 50% of the time. He gets sacked 5 times. He throws 2 interceptions. Like that's just more of an argument of switching to like a single wing. So
let me put it to you this way: if he's on the Patriots, even or the Chargers or the Jaguars, for example, I mean, all those teams, he's markedly better than he is now. My point is that is it Justin Herbert?
Is he?
He's not worse. Put Mac Jones on this team, and we're having a funeral for him. Trevor Lawrence looks like he did last year if he's playing on this team right now.
I mean, the team doesn't have a ton of talent, but they're 2-1.
Their offensive line is terrible, and the receivers are terrible. I mean, I think their strength of victory is like 0.2.
Wait a second. I want to back up. Breech just said this team does not have a ton of talent, and they're 2-1. Your Denver Broncos, everybody. Way to go, Breech.
Oh!
You called it. Okay, that's enough. What else is there to say? Both these teams.
This is too. Look, the Bears stole one from the 49ers in an extremely
Blood Bowl,
unusual torrential downpour. They got smoked by the Packers, and then they just beat a bad Texans team at home. Now, unfortunately, they do have the Giants and the Vikings on the road, then the Commanders and Pats on the road. Commanders at home, Pats on the road. So, like,
Pete likes to brag about Davis Mills being his guy. Davis Mills or McCorkle Jones? Who you taking?
I would take McCorkle over Davis Mills.
Breech.
Yeah, probably McCorkle.
Neither's a fun.
Their
prize.
schedule is so bad. They could. I mean, they're gonna get over the win total, which everyone took the under.
What is it? 4?
It was like 5.5, I think, maybe.
Hold your horses. I don't know.
Dude, they've got the Giants, the Commanders.
The Giants are in the playoffs along with the Bears. As we sit here, they can face each other in the first round.
Your argument is the Giants are 2-0, the Bears are 2-1. The Falcons.
I'm going to take the under of 5.5 if it's 5.5. Breach, are they going to go over 5.5?
The Bears?
Yeah. They have to win 3 more games this year with that offense that features a quarterback that throws the ball 2 times a game.
I mean, it's amazing they've even won 2 games with that offense.
That's the point.
They somehow have.
The law of averages is going to.
Wait, you said 5.5 is the over? I'll say yes.
That's what we're saying.
Yes.
All right. 2 yeses, 1.
Because what do they have? They have 14 games left. So they go 4-10 down the stretch. That gets in there.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
I don't think it's. I think that here's my prediction. At some point in the month of November, one of the 3 of us will throw out the Bears as like a wild card sleeper who could like steal that 7th seed. That's my prediction.
It ain't me. All right. What's next?
Clip and say that it ain't me when it was Wilson's like, I'm just telling you there's a path to the Bears.
Bears a path.
Panthers 22, Saints 14. Man, the Saints aren't good.
Yeah, you talk about this because I didn't watch 1 second of this travesty.
It was the Panthers scored first on a fumble recovery when Alvin Kamara fumbled.
Oh yeah, I saw the highlight of that. That was not fun.
Scoop score. The first touchdown, the first points from the Saints came with 12:35 to go in the 4th quarter when Mark Ingram plunged in. Here's how the Saints started their possessions: punt, fumble, punt, 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 blocked field goal, downs. I don't know how both of. I guess the field goal was on. Oh, is it they? Oh, did they try to kick a?
It doesn't matter. Just continue. Don't get stumbled. Don't stumble.
No, the block field goal goes behind the line. Goes behind the line of scrimmage, and then the team that kicked it recovers it. So it's like
a turnover on downs, right? But it's like pretty rare to have a comma in how your drive ended.
Double whammy.
Missed field goal, punt, touchdown, interception, punt, touchdown, interception. It was garbage time.
I saw that Laviska Shenault scored a long touchdown. How did Baker look? He went 12 of 25 for 170. That looks like some Justin Fields type numbers.
The Saints, he didn't. It was basically all on that Laviska touchdown.
So he's not better than Sam Darnold, is what I'm hearing.
No, I mean he's an upgrade, but only. They were feeding Chris McCaffrey a ton. DJ Moore has been a little pretty disappointing. Baker was not good, but the Panthers' defense is good, I think, and that's the key here. That's what's going to keep them maybe hanging around that Bears sleeper wild card position. Is that just the Panthers' defense is going to keep them in games? They need to steal that week 1 game against the Browns. They didn't. Now they are 1-2, and it feels like a little bit of pressure being let out of Matt Rule's thing here. But the Saints, man, I'm telling you, their offense is a disaster.
Yeah, no, that's blown up in my face. I'll just ride with the Jameis Winston back issues as an excuse for another couple of weeks, and then I'll jump off the ship into the water.
I don't want to sound like a total homer here, but would you at least think about putting Andy Dalton in over Jameis?
He's hurt. Why not? Let Jameis get healthy. Andy Dalton, it's going to be the same thing. He'll just be the one taking the beatings behind the line of scrimmage. But if that would make you happy, Breech, for a few moments, then by all means, let Jameis get healthy. Because he did say he was feeling some pain before this game. I'm guessing he doesn't feel better with the way the game went. And Brinson talked about how good the Panthers' young defense is.
I bet we start seeing a lot more Taysom Hill gadget plays when he comes back from. He was inactive in this game. Chris Olave looked awesome in this game, and Michael Thomas was pretty good, but both guys got hurt coming out of it, which is I mean, if you lose those two guys, this offense is sayonara. Like Sean Payton.
Smith went over 100.
What's that?
Too. Traquan Smith.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I mean, but most of this stuff was like in garbage time. I mean, the Panthers defense just shut this team down. And somehow the Saints I think had were potentially going to have a look to try to win the game. Falcons 27, Seahawks 23.
Now, this was a fun game. At the beginning of the podcast, we talked about, said how some of these games have been low scoring and sort of duds. This was actually sort of fun to watch. It was a shootout.
It was 10-10 at the end of the first quarter. That was not what you expected in this game.
I mean, the over, I don't know what it was. It must have hit by 20 points.
Probably by 10, yeah.
49.
The Falcons 1-2.
50. I can't do the math. Sorry.
Yeah. Seahawks also 1-2. Which 1-2 NFC bird would you feel more comfortable taking to make a shocking playoff run?
Geno has not been bad.
Geno is leading the NFL in completion percentage.
He has been
better than Russell Wilson.
Better than Russ. I was actually thinking, don't even get something else besides Drew Lock in that trade because you just wasted that person/draft pick by bringing Drew Lock over here. There was no competition, as it turned out. He's getting the receivers the ball. They seem relatively happy. They understand the situation. Fans seem to buy into what Geno did. He threw an interception at the end of the game, but they're trying to get back into it. I get it. Yeah. I'm going to go with the Seahawks, although Mariota, as I mentioned, played well today. And finally, Kyle Pitts got involved. I'm glad he was part of that game plan.
I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think they've been surprisingly good, even though Arthur Smith sounded a little awkward in both his press conferences after those losses and when he's getting questioned about how he's using players. But, I mean, if they don't blow
we talked about this. It was out of context. Like they didn't.
Right. But if they don't blow a 26-10 lead to the Saints in week 1, they're 2-1. They almost made that crazy comeback against the Rams in week 2, and then they went in. And the way I feel like this is what the teams that don't want to throw, the Justin Fields, the Bears, or the Panthers with Baker Mayfield, they want what the Falcons are doing with Marcus Mariota, where, hey, we only threw 20 passes, but we completed 13 of them. 9 of Mariota's 13 completions went for 12 yards or more. I believe 6 of the 13 completions went for 20 yards or more. So literally, anytime you put the ball in there, it was a big play. And you had Cordero Patterson just running crazy out there, and the Seahawks just didn't know what to do to stop the Falcons' offense.
And 8 of those completions went to Kyle Pitts and or Drake London. And it's worth noting, you mentioned Cordero Patterson. Brinson and I were joking before the season started about how, you can't have much of a running game with Cordero Patterson because he's a returner/receiver.
Turns out
he might be the best running back in the NFL. That guy is crushing it week in and week out.
God.
6'2" running back, just steamrolling people.
Steamroll.
Cordero Patterson ruined NC State's season. His 1 year at Tennessee. My God, he was destructive. This felt like a game the Seahawks sort of reminded me of the Lions-Vikings game in the sense that the Seahawks had a lot of chances to just like kind of lock it down. And this is, if you're Seattle and you want to make the playoffs, you want to be a contender of any sort, you had to beat the Falcons at home in week 3. And so I think Seattle obviously probably in trouble. Mariota, interesting. Arthur Smith was hanging out after the game, he gave away his hat to a Falcons fan in the Seahawks stadium. He was signing like jerseys.
Did the Falcons fans say, and who are you again?
They were all leaning over. He's like hanging out with them. I like that.
Arthur Smith could walk into 99.9% of eating establishments in this country, and no one would know who he is.
Well, I mean, he's not like Cliff Kingsbury.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone knows who Pete Carroll is. Everyone knows who Mike Tomlin is. I'm just saying he's Arthur Smith.
I will be curious to see how these two teams fare over the next few weeks because they have had, like the Seahawks beat the Broncos. But it was a big emotional game. They got blown out by the 49ers, and then this game. And then the Falcons had they had the Saints on the ropes and coughed it up, and then really we're getting blown out by the Rams, but then played this game. Like, are these teams going to be lingering, or are they going to sort of like get deflated? I'm impressed with the Falcons' effort so far through 3 weeks, and the Seahawks too.
Yep, agreed.
All right, Wilson, you said you had a list of 17 winners and losers that you want to go through. What do you got?
We can recap quickly our Super Bowl picks.
Okay, you love doing that.
Yeah, that's all I got going for me right now. So Wilson's team: Chiefs, Rams, Broncos, Vikings, Miami. All my teams are 2-1 or better. The Miami Dolphins are obviously 3-0. All total,
pretty good.
All total, I have 11 wins. Breech says the Packers, the Chargers, the Bengals, the Cowboys, and the Steelers. Oh boy, he's got 6 wins total.
Just cross out the last 2.
Yeah.
What?
Last 3, Bengals too.
The Cowboys just beat the Bengals. They might win on Monday and go 2-1.
Brinson has the Ravens, the Eagles, the Colts, the Saints, the Jags. 3 of those teams are doing quite well. Brinson has 9 wins, and then Caleb, the listener, has the Bills, the Bucs, the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Raiders. So he's at 6 wins, tied with Breech. So
among the many things I like that Billy does better than Debo, he leaves a lot of this stuff on the document so you can actually check it. The Colts and the Saints over, I could have taken the Vikings and the Dolphins will probably haunt me.
There you go.
Nothing will haunt me because I have the Bengals and they're going to win it all.
And you have the Broncos winning the Super Bowl, which goes against what you just said about the Bengals.
You took the Chargers over the Rams and Bucs. That was stupid. Also,
I said Los Angeles. I thought I took the Rams. What? We need to go back and listen to the tape. This is ridiculous.
Or you can do that on your own time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow.
In the meantime, we're going to leave. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, turn on alerts. For Wilson, for Breech, I'm Brinson. See you guys later.